Hello there and welcome to Keep and Destroy. I'm your host, Adam Luff. This is the Gerry Anderson podcast where I interview his fans and ask a hard question. What 5 do they want to keep and what 5 do they want to destroy? And for this week, I'd like to introduce Willow Lambden-Smith. Welcome to the show, Willow.
Hi there, thanks for having me. It's always happy to talk about Anderson stuff.
Well, first things first, how did you become a fan of Gerry Anderson?
I've always been an Anderson fan. I mean, my mum was a very big Anderson fan, but it was something that we just did together. We always watched them together. We've been to sort of like a few conventions together, and it's just been a really nice thing that we share. It's always been a very positive thing for me.
I see that you describe yourself as a paranormal romance author. Now, I can't see any Gerry Anderson connection there, but has Gerry Anderson inspired you as a writer at all?
Definitely. Even though, like you said, I write paranormal romance, that doesn't mean that every one of my heroes doesn't have a tiny little bit of an Anderson hero in him somewhere. There's probably a little bit of Tracy in almost everyone I write at some point. One of the main characters is called Marina, and we do have a club there called Zodiacs, and there is a few other little references that do sneak in now and then.
You're also known as the instigator for the hashtag #BeMoreV. Tell us more about that. How did that start?
It came about as a random throwaway comment. I posted a picture of one of the collectible Thunderbirds cards. Brains is looking all sort of concerned. Everyone's laying there sort of like all passed out, and Virgil's just sitting there and he's not bothered in the slightest. And I said, we all need to like be more V and just live our life and just let things go and just be chill. You know, if you're going to be like anyone, if you're going to be positive, just be more Virgil, because he's awesome and he's not easily upset by anything. So yeah, Virgil, no drama.
Okay then, so now it's time to begin the keep list. So what is the first thing that you would like to keep, Willow?
My first one would be Thunderbirds Danger at Ocean Deep. I think it's a very underrated episode. Quite a few fun bits with Parker stealing the champagne and some of the banter between like the Tracy brothers. I find that's really, really good. And for me personally, we have John, which is always a bonus.
I always thought it was a very awkward way to bring John into the episode. Yeah, he comes down to earth and all that, but then we don't see him again until he's all of a sudden in Thunderbird 2. Oh, by the way, John's on this mission. And I know Gerry, for some reason, didn't like John. I mean, I've heard rumours that it was like Sylvia Anderson designed John to look like, I think it was Adam Faith. What I don't understand is, if he didn't like the way he was written, why couldn't he have had it rewritten? Or if he didn't like the design of John the puppet, why not just have it redesigned? Because he's the man in charge. He could easily have said no.
I always just felt really, really sorry for John, just sort of being stuck up there. No one seemed to really care about him, but he was the one that had the most important job. If he wasn't there, they wouldn't be doing international rescue as much. They are the only ones that are there that are giving people hope. When you feel like no one's listening and no one's actually out there that's going to actually hear your cries for help, you need someone that's going to do that, and that's John.
One of the highlights of that episode is actually the ending when Jeff gives that speech.
Jeff is inspirational in himself in that respect.
Yeah.
I mean, he is like the ultimate philanthropist. He's got so much money, and the thing he wants to do is help people and save people, but he wants to do it completely anonymously, which is just amazing, really.
And unlike Bruce Wayne, he's not a moody git, and unlike Tony Stark, he doesn't have an alcohol problem.
New Captain Scarlet, Chiller. The whole episode was very, very atmospheric. It starts off with obviously a human that's voluntarily helping the Mysterons. Was quite a strange concept for me, but then it's also very, very human as well. The ultimate part of this episode of why I really, really liked it was Scarlet was almost like a misplaced spirit in this episode. It makes you wonder, all these other people that have been Mysteronized, are they doing the same thing? And it really resonated with me with my love of paranormal things.
They don't really have much of an explanation for it. At the end, it's just summed up as your indestructibility just took a little bit longer this time. It was so dismissed.
That's the one bit I had a niggle with. It was strange that he then didn't really remember anything that had happened. It would have been a lot more impactful if he had have remembered it.
You know the scene when Colonel White is typing in that Scarlet's deceased and whatnot, and he's drinking his tea or coffee, whatever it is? I quite like the little touch when he puts it down on the desk. There's this little red heating sensor underneath to keep his drink warm. But then I noticed, we then cut to a close-up of him typing on the keyboard, and the cup's vanished. It's not in the next shot. There's a continuity error.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Thunderbirds Terror in New York City. It doesn't matter how many times I watch this episode, it grips me. And I think part of that obviously is the bit where Virgil gets shot down by the Sentinel. It's the music, it's Shane Rimmer's like amazing voice work with Scott is just absolute perfection in that. He's putting so much emotion into that performance. And I don't feel like Scott would have been such a good character if you didn't have Shane's portrayal.
I couldn't agree more. He never had the range like Ray Barrett or David Graham, but that voice is so distinctive.
I also love that Gordon gets to shine in this episode, though. There's not enough Gordon.
What was that?
That episode has just absolutely everything in it that you need in a good episode of any show, let alone just Thunderbirds.
Yeah. I'm going to shock you.
Go for it.
I think Terror in New York City is the most overrated Thunderbirds episode ever.
No arguments.
I know, Atlanta, and I don't care. As it stands, Adam has committed an act of war.
You brought up some good points, but oh my god, I've got so many things to say about this. Ned Cook, I have no sympathy for that guy, and I don't care about his speech at the end, how he's had a change of heart. No, he was irresponsible when he's been told by the police to get out of there, but yet he still must tell the audience, and no one seems to care about Joe.
I actually think Joe should have died.
Right, that brings up to my next point, because Gordon has just got everyone in Thunderbird 4, the building collapses, and then we last see Thunderbird 4 getting crushed by all the rocks.
Yeah.
Then we cut to the Ned Cook show and everything's hunky-dory.
Yeah.
Why? There's a scene missing there. Could we not have had Gordon at least just get on the radio and say, we're okay, we're coming up now? We don't get that. So even as a kid, I thought, wait, what's happened to Thunderbird 4? Are they dead? So yeah, if you were like me and you never saw the unedited version, you only had Countdown to Disaster, the compilation movie, to go on, they cut out the sequence where the Tracy family are in the audience.
Yeah.
We just have Ned Cook do his speech, and then we cut to Atlantic Inferno. So for the longest time, we don't know if Gordon survived until we get to Atlantic Inferno. Also, there are some stupid lines when Scott says, we've got to get Thunderbird 2 out there right away. How stupid are you, Scott? I thought Alan Fennell was a great writer, but that needed some rewriting. You could have had something like, we've got to get out there right away. And then Jeff could say, what can we do with Thunderbird 2 out of action? We could easily sort that out.
Yeah, there is a few lines of dialogue in a lot of the shows that I personally think could have been written better.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then Virgil says, what can I do, Father? It's like, Virgil, you're injured. You are completely useless.
That's Virgil. He just wants to help everybody. He's just being more vague. I feel like they're all like that, though, aren't they? They'd probably all be just absolute nightmare patients.
It's got two iconic set pieces. The fall of the Empire State Building, which is good because not only is it a good disaster scenario, but it's not just this made-up building for a fictional show. It's a real thing. So there's a connection there. I can appreciate that. And also Thunderbird 2 being shot down. But I've always preferred The Uninvited when Scott was shot down. To me, overall, I've never been a fan of it.
Original Captain Scarlet, white as snow. I think what I like about that episode is you get to see the characters in a slightly different light. And so far, all we really saw about Scarlet was that he was quite a serious man. And then all of a sudden, he's just like lounging at Colonel White's desk and just enjoying the music. But I also found that with Colonel White's reaction to seeing Scarlet, you can just see that almost like little half smile on his face the whole time. And you can tell he's sitting there like, I work with idiots. I like the fact that you didn't get the actual Mr. On Threat until, I think, 6 minutes into the actual episode.
There is a reason for that. Originally, the script was underrunning. Tony Bowker's script editor actually added the whole sequence where Captain Black sabotages the ship. There is one problem I've got with it, is the Mr. Ons and Captain Black are very ruthless. They'll just kill people on sight. I never quite understood, why does Captain Black simply not just shoot the controller?
Yeah, why does he get tied up?
Another thing is, because we never see that character again, does Captain Black just leave, or does he kill him in the end?
There was always that question mark with Captain Black, though, wasn't there? I mean, he was quite ruthless. But if you think about at the point where he actually let Symphony go...
But that was because he needed a decoy.
Yeah, but he just... Someone brought it up a while ago, and it did make an interesting theory, was the fact that Captain Black was never actually killed to become a Mistron. So it's almost like he's always slightly fighting with his humanity still. And I feel like doing those little bits like and not killing everybody could almost be seen as him still fighting for his humanity. You never know.
I think that's basically people like desperately trying to explain what comes across to me as a bit of a character inconsistency. Him fighting his humanity, no, because there's no examples of it in original Captain Scarlet. Yes, there is a new Captain Scarlet, and fair enough, that works fine for what it is with Best of Enemies and Dominion, stuff like that, but there's no examples about any attempt to revive Captain Black in the original. So I always just felt that he was a complete, pardon the pun, a puppet for the Mysterons. So
yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, I can't see it myself personally.
Fireball XL5, and I have Plant Man from Space. And this was one of the first Fireball episodes I ever watched as a child. I like that you've got the bad guy that no one actually suspects because he's just coming in as this sort of weedy kind of...
Pardon the pun.
Yeah, that's bad. That was a bad choice.
Well, his name's also a pun on it as well. Roots.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Mr. Roots. He's non-confrontational, isn't he? He's non-threatening.
That's right, yeah.
And he comes across as very, very weak and very easily led and pathetic when all in all he's been the mastermind throughout the entire thing. I love the whole tension of the rocket heading to Earth and XL1 Alpha just crashing, and just the way they sort of wake up just the entire space city covered in plants, which I thought was a really good way of actually sort of like stopping them and showing how nature could be as well. The only thing I didn't really like was the ending with Robert.
I love 5XL5. I think it's quite an underrated show, but it does have cop-out endings.
Yes.
One of the things that I always thought was a shame with Gerry Anderson shows don't often have rogues galleries of reoccurring villains. 5XL5 has the Subterraneans for 4 episodes and has the Space Spies for 4 episodes.
Yep.
But I wish some of the other aliens coming back, and Howard Roots and his plant monsters, especially on planet Earth where vegetation everywhere. It's a shame they didn't bring him back. Maybe if
Yes, I think they could have done something.
If he has more of those pills or something and more plant monsters come to life, or maybe he gets taken over and turns into a giant plant monster, like a giant cactus running around, I don't know.
Or he could swap their oxygen pills for those and see what happens.
Steve takes one, goes into space, and he blows up into a cactus in space.
Yeah.
Okay, now things are going to start turning quite negative as we enter the destroy list. So what's the first thing you want to destroy, Willow?
People are going to hate me, but I want to destroy Thunderbird's The Mighty Atom.
There are worse episodes in my opinion, but I'm not going to defend this one either, so go ahead.
I know that there's so many people when they're asked what is one of their favourite episodes, they will say this one. A lot of people like the sort of light-hearted playfulness of this episode, but I hate that. I find Penelope is really, really annoying in this episode. There's a few moments where I feel like her character is slightly inconsistent over the entire show. She's supposed to be 26 years old. To me, she often sounds more like a 70-year-old maiden auntie in the way she acts. Old-fashioned.
Is it things like grandmama? Because that always stood out for me.
There's so many contradictions about her that I really can't get behind. I don't like the mouse. He's creepy. I don't like it. It's very slow going as well.
That's one of my problems actually, is the structure. The first half is set before International Rescue was established. But you don't know that until much later in the episode.
Especially not by looking at the newspapers, because obviously there's date and year errors on there. Yeah.
They really needed a caption.
Definitely. Supercar Rescue. I understand it's the first episode, so they kind of have to explain a lot of stuff, introduce the characters, they have to explain all about what Supercar is about and what it can do and things like that. But I felt this is one series that I'm not a huge fan of in general. I really hate Mitch the Monkey. I love David Graham. I hate Mitch the Monkey. They should have drowned that monkey. I really felt like it kind of cheapened the show a little bit, and I feel like it could have been so much better if it didn't have that so much monkey-centricness to it. I mean, I love Zuni. I think he's great. I love Oink. I'm generally down. I think if the Thunderbirds had a pet, I would have been down for that. But I just do not like Mitch the Monkey. I can't like him. I can't do it.
The fact that he takes the medical supplies in the raft and just throws it out. It's just
That's the point. I was like, just drown the monkey, just throw him in after it.
Threw a monkey in the sea. That's such a pointless death. At least when they experiment on them, they sort of get something out of it. Nice perfume or something.
Captain Scarlet, the Inquisition. Everything about the episode just annoys me. I feel like it was a very, very weak ending to like a fantastic show. The only thing I really liked about it is just how in control Captain Blue is of pretty much the entire situation. He's sticking to his convictions, yet is he being tested? So you can see that he's trying his hardest to kind of cooperate, but also not give anything away. Captain Blue is the only thing I like about that episode.
I like the episode, but not as a finale. I've said that before in the past, but one of the things I always feel that finales need to have is the key characters all together. So you have that curtain call. You don't get that with the Inquisition. You got the title character. Captain Scarlet is nothing more than a cameo. Colonel White and Lieutenant Green, they're nowhere in sight. It doesn't feel right as a finale. I feel the same way about Birds of a Feather being the Lavender Castle final episode, because the heroes are not even in the episode. That's why I like Aquanaut of the Year and The Birthday as finales, because everyone's all together. And both those episodes are about the main character, Troy and Joe 90.
Stingray, Tom Thumb Tempest. I'm just not a fan of dream sequences in general. I think it was more how Troy acted in it that annoyed me. He seems like a bratty toddler in it. You know, I don't want to sit about and wait. I don't want to do this. I'm getting grumpy. I'm too hot. I'm too everything. He was just moaning the whole time. And he kept picking on phones so much in this episode. And I kind of just wanted to smack him a little bit for that. There was something about this episode that just nothing about it gripped me.
It shares the same gimmick that Five Blocks or Fives, the Triads, and Supercars Calling Charlie Queen had, which was characters getting shrunk down to puppet size so they can interact with real life objects and things like that. So I don't mind that. I mean, Tom Thumb Tempest I'm okay with, but I think they were missing out on, like what I said earlier about reoccurring villains. There was a great opportunity here with Titan having, you know, Nutella from Emergency Marineville and Gators from Hostages of the Deep. It would have been great if they actually all appeared together, just talking to each other. And Titan apparently has this network, but we never really see that. I never really bought the idea that Titan had all these villains working for him. To me, it was always Titan, X-User, and the Aquaphibins. They're in their own group, and all the others are just doing their own thing.
Obviously with Stingray, we had, what, like 3 dream episodes?
And Troy was the one dreaming all of them. And that's my problem with that. It shouldn't have been all 3.
Yeah. It's a very Troy-centric show. And 3 dream episodes of Troy was just not fun for me. Fireball XL5 Space Monster. It includes my least favourite character ever, my most hated Anderson character ever. I absolutely hate Ken Johnson. Hate him.
He's only in 2 episodes. What did he do?
Everything about him is just horrible.
I know what it is. It's when he turns to Venus and says, "Go in the cave, you can't help me or Steve." It's stuff like that, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It's part of that. I don't like his face.
Right. Oh, you'd hate Tom Thumb Tempest as well, because he's the news anchor in that as well.
Yep, yep. See, Tom Thumb Tempest is on my list. It's him. Yeah. Everything about him is just cringy to me. I really don't like his attitude. He's very nasty to Venus. He demeans her so much. It's the fact, I know it's a bit of a joke that she's the pretty space doctor, but the fact that she's just saved his crewmate, and then he's like, yeah, but she's pretty. And it's like, well, that's where her brains are then, obviously, in her face. I feel like he's a bit of a sexist idiot, and they should have left him there.
Weirdly enough, that puppet is brought back as Johnny Jackson for Convict in Space and Space City Special and Forbidden Planet. And then I always wondered why that puppet was then brought back for Stingray, because they didn't do it that often, bringing many puppets back to the next show. You did it occasionally, like Steve Zodiac appearing in Stand By for Action, stuff like that.
The only thing I liked about this episode is the fact that the space monster is absolutely adorable, but even he could not save this episode for me. He's so cute. I don't like the way Steve breaks his leg either. I think it is graphic, but it's also quite underwhelming as well. Because he just falls and goes,
I think I've broken my leg.
Can I not get an ouch, Steve? Like, sell me this broken leg.
One thing I always hated, the character of Al Stomper, who I actually quite like as a character, but he spends the episode being injured the whole time. The last scene where they're all in 5XL5 flying home, why is he the one who's got to stand up?
It's not fair, is it, really?
I mean, Steve is injured, fair enough, he's got to sit down. Ken Johnson, so there's another reason for you to hate him, he gets to sit down. But Al Stomper, who's been ill or injured,
and was almost dying on that planet thinking he's not going to make it, and he's in such a bad way because they've had this big crash and he's been terrified. I mean, that poor bloke's got to have some PTSD.
It's obviously more to do with the camera blocking of the character so you can see him in the foreground, so you can't have him sat with his back to camera. But still, you could have just put him where Ken Johnson's sitting and then have Ken Johnson be the one standing. But it's weird because that puppet never comes back, but he was in Space Magnet as a different character, though. He was Chuck. He was Ross's co-pilot, but so they just reused the puppet, but as a different character, and then he's never seen after Space Monster. So yeah, he probably had a mental breakdown or something and never seen again.
Yeah, that's he's just having nightmares of this weird creature that looks a bit like the Loch Ness Monster, and
Yeah, it is. It's
yeah,
so popular, yeah. I also like, and it predates Star Trek as well, Steve Zodiac's speech about space.
Space. One of the most exciting ventures of man to date. But it can also be dark and mysterious and very lonely.
I know the Star Trek one's more iconic, but
he gets all sort of like deep and philosophical about it
Yeah.
and quite almost in awe of it. And it's like, if you know the Steve Zodiac history, you know that he was like born on Mars. So it's like born in space.
well, that comes to the end of Keep and Destroy, an interesting list of episodes. I have one question for you before you go.
Okay.
In regards to the Be More V campaign,
Yes.
if you could pick a character that's the opposite of Virgil, who would you have for the hashtag Don't Be More, and why?
Don't be more Titan. Don't be more T. Be more V. I mean, Titan's got followers. Yeah, I feel like Titan could be dangerous if he had some better minions.
All I'll say is thank you for your time, Willow. It's been great talking to you.
Well, thank you for having me. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time here, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
And that concludes another episode of Keep and Destroy. Once again, thank you very much for watching this video. Please give it a like and a share and a subscribe. And if you would like to donate to the show to help it continue, please donate to me on Buy Me a Coffee or GoFundMe. The links are in the description. This is Adam Luff, signing out.